Yo, what's going on, everybody? So, as I'm sure you're all aware of, we are cooked. As a people, as a society, as a nation, so on and so forth. A lot of things are going on, and they're all bad, all the time. Everywhere you look, every post, every headline, every comment section. The world's burning down. There's nothing you can do about it. Let's doom scroll. If you're feeling this way, you're not crazy. I'll tell you what, you're not alone. But I'm gonna be honest with you. What you are is in danger. You're in danger of getting stuck in a mindset that's going to kill your momentum and it's going to lead you to a life that you do not want. Now, I know it's fun to participate in all the shared group thought and complain about reality. I promise you, no one loves complaining more than me. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. But the reality is that none of the negativity around this topic is going to improve your position. It's not going to improve any of the things that you're upset about in the world. It's just not going to change anything. All it is complaining. And it's fun, but it shouldn't be any more than that. And for a lot of people, it is. So today I kind of want to talk about why this mindset's spreading, why it's so prevalent right now, why it's important to kind of put your hand up and push back a little bit against it, and some tactical ways to kind of fight back against it. So I think we'll just get right into why the doom mindset is spreading. And I think there's a couple factors contributing to this. When I look around the world that I live in, I see social media algorithms, no surprise, contribute to this. I think we all know this. Negativity spreads. It's, outrage goes viral. We're all aware of it. But I think that because we're aware of it, we kind of don't think it applies to us. And that logic to me is just kind of like, I know cigarettes are bad for me. So even though I smoke them, since I know they're bad for me, they're not going to impact me. And I think the truth is, if you're digesting all this information, you're spending your whole day scrolling, like, even if you're aware of how the algorithms work, it's still going to impact your brain. It's still going to leave you with this kind of feeling of things being hopeless. And maybe I'm projecting, but I know I do this myself a little bit. If I spend too much time on the YouTube, which I do love, it's easy to walk away and just be like, man, everything's bad. But then, you go outside and you see your neighbors and you step back into reality. And it's not really the case in most situations. So kind of hand in hand with that, I think another reason that everyone has this perception that the world is ending right now and there's nothing we can do to improve our position is because in the last few years, certainly I've seen it in my lifetime, politics has gone mainstream. Now, I'm an older millennial. I'm old enough to remember when the news was boring, and I miss those days, man. But I think since everyone got a voice, since everyone got on social media, if it bleeds, it reads is like never more true than ever. And, everybody and their mother wants to have an opinion on politics these days. And I say, I do it. I jump in. I love a good argument about things I know nothing about. But it's crazy because I know people that are dumb. Like, I know them in real life. And, they're not qualified to hold a mop as a janitor at a school. But for some reason, they think they're an expert in global trade and all kinds of healthcare things. And, they'll just sit there and lecture me about their view of what needs to change in the world. And it's fine. Like, I do it too. But I'm just letting you know, when somebody steps up and they go, oh, I'm going to engage you in XYZ political topic, it is acceptable to say, oh, I don't really know that much about it and I don't have an opinion on it. And in fact, I've been doing that a lot more lately. And I'm a contrarian, look, and I'm a troll and I love a good fight. But I promise you, if you take this approach, watch how annoyed people get when you won't engage them on this. It's just so fun. And it kind of does avoid these situations where you take this standpoint that you have no real idea what you're about. You saw it on your news of whatever kind. That's how I do it. I see the people that I like say something. I'm like, yeah, what they think. And I kind of just go and repeat it. And then I get in fights and people challenge it. And I don't even know why I'm defending it, but I just double down for some reason. A lot of that going on. And it's all just, not for nothing, but it's sort of all for naught. Because a lot of us will go on whatever, the YouTube, the news, social media, however you get your information. And we'll spend 20, 30 hours a week watching, these people blew up these people passed this law. And we get mad and we scream and we go and make posts. But in terms of what's in our influence, we really can't do a single thing besides vote once every 4 years. So like the more I think about it, to spend 20, 30 hours a week sitting there caught in it, having it consuming you, it's hundreds, thousands of hours every 4 years when all you can do is take 30 minutes every 4 years, drive yourself to a ballot box, put your vote in, and boom, I don't get to have any influence again for 4 years. Like, why are we spending such disproportionate amount of times on it? But we do. We watch it all day. We have this informational diet that we feed with all this like half truth in the news that's like has all these corporate sponsorships behind it, blurring the lines. And we just get furious and we fight each other and we act like the world's ending and we think the world's ending in our head. So that's another strong reason driving that. And I think there could even be a third. I mean, I'm sure there's more than three, but in my head, there's another factor. And I need you to bear with me. We're going to get into some light conspiracy here. Um, and this is not meant to be political in any way. I don't think it is. I'm old enough to remember when conspiracy didn't invoke political reactions. It was just some crazy guy in a basement or his mom's basement. So I can be your crazy guy in the mom's basement. So the way I think about it in terms of conspiracy is like maybe there's international interference going on with some of these things. Like if I'm a foreign country, if I'm, I don't know, take the ops, maybe I'm China, maybe I'm, whatever country's trying to make their come up, and I want to get that number one spot. And if America is, if we're to believe America isn't a number one spot, how do I topple something like that? Well, I probably want to sow a little bit of dissent from within. And what better way than to get all the citizens fighting about how, hey, this system's not working, and get them screaming at each other. And then I'm over here in whatever country I am, building my empire and getting ready to take over. And meanwhile, they're all like dogs chasing their tails over there. So I have zero evidence whatsoever to support that. I don't even think I've ever seen a video on it. But in my head, it feels real. So it's just due to all these factors and a bunch of factors I've probably missed. I think it's easy to have the perception that everything's falling apart right now, even though it may not be reflective of reality. And just to give you some historical context, like I'm 34. This is the year 2025. So I was 22, 23 years old coming out of college in 2012, I want to say. And at that time, man, like it's hard to remember now, but this was on the heels of the global 2008 financial crisis. We had been in these wars now that we got in kind of under false pretenses due to 9/11. So people were furious at the government there. People were disenchanted with the investment banks, and the firms that made the mortgage-backed securities that contributed to the 2008 crisis. There was Occupy Wall Street was big. The internet was just starting to get big, and you were starting to see these like chat rooms and these like sort of echo chambers coming together. And I'll let you know, like at that time, we definitely felt like that. And I remember like a lot of times people say, but you don't understand, today's different. And all I can give you is my perspective because I was there. I'm telling you, we said the exact same thing back then. We said, no, it's different. You don't understand. These old people, they ruined it for us. And if I look back historically, like you can go and read like old news headlines and stuff. I think this has always been a thing that like the kids or the current generation has done. I mean, imagine being like 20 years old and like, 1935. You just ended World War I and there's all this global tension. And like, it's probably pretty easy to think that the world's falling apart then. And arguably back then, they were definitely in an environment where it was falling apart so much more. So like every time we sit there and think it's falling apart, just remember like we actually are mostly sitting like on our couches with big screen TVs, all having smartphones, and like we're not really being drafted and sent to war. So there's a lot of like that doesn't discount the atrocities that go on a daily basis. There's 7 billion people on this planet. A lot of terrible things do happen, and like we should shine light on them. But it's only meant to give some perspective that maybe the world isn't ending to the same degree that we think it is. So we want to try to kind of avoid this like doom and gloom mindset and just take a more realistic, develop a more realistic understanding and framework to kind of get us through the world, because it doesn't maybe seem like it's going to impact your life that much, but this doomer mindset can be very dangerous, and it has some real world implications. Because number one, it paralyzes you. I see the kids today like, why would I get why would I get a degree, why would I get a job, whatever it is, whatever you think that path is, they go, it's all going to fall apart, why would I even take any action? They don't pay off debts, they doom spend. And it's fun because in the moment you feel like nothing's ever going to get better, but probably the reality of it is you're going to be 10 years is going to go by at some point, 20 years is going to go by at some point, and people are using this like paralysis because they're like using this as a way to paralyze themselves from taking action. And it's just like paralysis by analysis, and it's kind of just like, it almost feels to me like it's a little bit of like laziness disguised as altruism. I think I heard somebody say that. I don't know if that's an original thought. But it's easy to be like, I won't do anything because it's so bad. But like, if you really stop back and look at your brain, like what's going on under the hood, like, yes, it is scary. Things are scary, but life's always scary. And you might just be using this as an example to not start something. And if you continue to not start something for 10, 20 years, well then like whatever dream and whatever life you think you're going to get to, that is not the path there, and you will not be there in 10 to 20 years. And hopefully, God willing, you will be alive in 10 or 20 years. And, I'd much rather for you or for anybody that they're in a place where they want to be. And you only get there by action. The second way I think that this really kind of screws over the people who hold this mindset is it breeds resentment. And I've got good friends like this, and they didn't always used to be like this. They used to be optimistic people, and they get caught up in, for any number of factors we just said, the news, social media, and now they had the same starting point as me, and they grew up in life, but they're kind of taking this negative view, and I see them getting more and more introverted, more and more negative about the world, and even like me, who doesn't like. They'll start to tell me like making money's evil, and it's like, no, dude, making money, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's how you make the money. Making money is just making money. If you're doing it in an unethical way, then you should not do it. But so long as you're doing it in a way that adheres to your moral code or your sense of ethics, like, I don't think making money in and of itself is inherently evil. So when you start to breed resentment against people who make money, or people who maybe had things, like, dude, there's trust fund kids out there who were born with a way better position than me, and I could be mad and be like, why was I not born with a trust fund? But it's not going to get me anywhere. You know what I mean? And that kind of works all the way up and down the social and economic ladder. And it sucks because some people are born in really, really unfortunate spots, and it's not fair, and you feel bad for them. And I'm not saying like we shouldn't, have empathy for those people. We absolutely should. But if you're in a position like that, this is not like a judgment, just as a mode of practicality. The more accountability you can take, the less you blame others. Like, that's the best shot you have at improving your position. And the third thing where this is kind of a problem for the people that uphold the mindset is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you sit there and you never take any action and you just look at the world as terrible and all you watch all day are negative things, then there's hundreds of millions of things going on at any time. Right now, somebody's being hit by a car. Right now, somebody's being shot somewhere. Right now, somebody's being kidnapped somewhere. That's mad facts. But also, right now, somebody's helping some old ass lady across the street somewhere. Somebody's donating to a charity. Somebody's trying to solve a problem. So it's kind of goes back to the informational diet. Like, if we just choose to focus on the negative things, it's easy to think everything is negative. A much more practical approach is like, hey, there's a lot of things going on. You can kind of choose what you focus on. And in terms of the impact you have in the world, just complaining and going on about how everything's bad all the time, I'd honestly view that as a net negative in the world. Where you could be taking that time and trying to uplift somebody and help somebody, or whatever it is you think is the right way to be living. Like, you can only control what you can control, so why not take each day and make the most of it, even though it does sometimes feel like the world's burning down around you. So I guess that gets into like my solution here. As you can probably guess, it really comes down to like a mind shift solution, and that's it's not as simple as just saying think differently. Because for me, like, I'll give an example from my own life. I say all this a lot. Like, I have a lot of empathy for this topic because when I was like 21, 22, I was getting like a 2.0 in college. I was digging graves as my college job, which is kind of like a weird mental space to be in anyway. My girlfriend of 3 years had just broken up with me at the time, and I thought it was the end of the world. My friends were all away at college, and I was living at home. And I was just really down, and I was looking around, and I was complaining about anything and anything I could find. The news, I started to get involved in like politics, and it's just making me someone I didn't want to be. And I was the one suffering from it. That's the craziest thing. Like, I get resentful, and people always say like holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for somebody else to get sick. And I just think that's such a good analogy because I was getting worse and worse every day, and I didn't even realize it, but I was starting to bother those around me. And I have a really good friend who actually sat me down the one day, and he didn't sat me down. We were walking around the block, and I was complaining about, who knows, something. And he just stopped me, and he said, yo, man, listen, I'm just letting you know you've been a real pain in the ass lately. Everything you say is negative, and you're changing. You weren't always like this. And, he hit me with some more personal information about how tactically it was how tangibly it was bothering him. And I'll be honest with you, man. My first instinct, I was like pissed. I was like, you don't get it, man. We don't care about, like, got on my high horse and like, oh, you don't see the world like I'm seeing it. But the next few days, I kind of start to think about it more and more. And like, this isn't a guy who makes something out of nothing. It's a person who I've been really good friends with for 10 probably years at that point. That wasn't a conversation he wanted to have. He easily could have just let me bitch and then kind of drift away from me over time. But he didn't. He called me out. He had the uncomfortable conversation. He told me what I needed to hear in that moment. And so many times I think at some point I hopefully would have snapped out of it. But I wonder how far down that road I would have went, how many friends I would have isolated myself from, and just how negative it would have gotten before I turned it around, or if I ever would have. So I guess the first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. Like, if what I'm saying is resonating with you, you don't got to sit there and tell other people, but just look into your heart, admit it, to yourself at least, and say, hey, I think that my mindset's a problem here. And if you have an interest in changing, there's like a few ways that help me. I got into philosophy. This is a buzzword. I got into stoicism, the real kind, not like the kind that AI they put online and they use it as like propaganda to send out Andrew Tate messages. Like, that's fine. But what I'm talking about is like real simple concepts. Know what's in your control, identify what's outside of your control, try to learn to accept the things that you can't change for what they are, whether or not you like them, they just are what they are, and figure out steps you can take to change things that you are unhappy about that are within your control in your life. There's other, like, I explored nihilism a little bit, which a lot of people who have this sort of mindset, I would consider them nihilistic, and I still consider myself like pretty nihilistic in the sense like, what's the point, man? But if you go deeper and you look at like how different philosophers have dealt with that over time, like you can get to a place where you have like somewhat of a nihilistic or jaded view on the world, but you can still come out optimistic. And for me, that's the real goal. The older I get, I don't want to like say things to be cool. I don't want to say things to make people feel a certain way about me. I just want to see the situation for as clear as it is. If I can get 95% clarity and go, I really understand this situation, and then take a pragmatic approach to solve it, whatever that looks like for me, like it's a much better kind of way to go about it. And aside from like just getting my general disposition and way I interact with the world, I also like start setting some life goals. The situation I was talking about when I was 22 earlier, like, dude, I never thought I'd be able to do anything more than dig graves. And now it's so crazy to think about myself now, like the job I have, the income I make, the family I have, just the life I've built for myself. I always thought like that's for somebody else, but not for me, because I have all these negative things. And these are just limiting beliefs holding me back, and they were largely informed by this negative mindset that I've developed over time. So if you're someone who's looking to kind of fix your life up, who finds yourself in this position, start setting goals. And when I say goals, I don't mean like the influencer of today goals. Like, you don't need a Bugatti. You don't need to be smoking the best cigars and drinking scotch and having 100 models around you and like an Instagram house. Like, if that's what you want, that's truly what you want in your heart, then that's fine. Find a way to go for it. But for me, I realized like, if I got all that, if you could wave a wand and I had that tomorrow, what do I really want? Like, none of that is what I really want. Sure, I'd be happy to have the money, but like, I want a life that is full. Jesus, idiot. I want a life that's full. And what that means for me is like, I'm exploring passions and I'm getting better at them. So jiu-jitsu and guitar have been so huge for me. They built so much confidence just because I've been doing guitar for like 8 years and jiu-jitsu for like 3. And I just look back at what I started and my capabilities, and I look at my capabilities today. And from like an achievement perspective, that brings me a ton of joy. And then there's a lot more to life than achieving, I've realized too. Like, I don't need to be the best at anything. I just have to be what I want to be. So I want to be the best I think I've said this in other videos. I definitely said this in other videos. But like, the best father and husband I can be to my kid and wife. Those are like big goals for me. I want to have a house of a certain amount of square feet. I want to have a certain number of kids, and I want to be in a certain area. I'm not going to disclose that, but like, when I say get a goal, it doesn't have to be this crazy goal. Like, that is my goal. That's my framework for what I want. In 10 years, I want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I want to be able to sit there and grab the guitar and pretty easily play anything I want to play based on memory. I want to have a great relationship still with my kids and my wife. I want everyone to be flourishing in their own right, and I want to be living where I want to be living where I want to live, around like friends and stuff that I like. It's not a crazy goal. It's not super something unachievable. It's just a goal that I think is going to bring my life fullness. And I think just with today's hustle culture and the things that we see online, these fake lives that people portray on social media, like, we've gotten to the idea that there's somehow something wrong with being normal. And the older I get, and it's funny enough, the more I achieve and the more things I get, you start to realize like, happiness isn't necessarily to be found in those achievements, although it does feel nice to achieve. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't achieve, but you don't have to tie your whole personal self-worth to it. You can separate your achievements from who you are as a person. We're all deserving of like love and happiness and the right to pursue the things we want to pursue. So it doesn't always have to be viewed through the lens of being a hyperachiever. And the final thing I would do, and I actually did this right around the time when I was like 22. You hear everyone say this, but I feel like it's one of those things people say but they don't do. Just get off social media. You don't have to get off social media. Let me give you my personal experience, and maybe that'll kind of help inform what the personal correct solution is for you. Like, I was posting on Facebook all the time, and I think even back in 2012, that was probably contributing to the negative mindset. But what's more dangerous than that is I was finding myself in real life now. People would invite me to something, and I would go, oh, I can go there so I can get this picture and make this post so that people online will have this perception of me. And that's like so gross, and I don't know. It just is what it is. But like, I had to be honest with it and take like a mental assessment of myself. And I realized like it was permeating in other ways, but that's probably the most concrete, tangible way that I think I can say it, where a lot of people relate to. Social media was permeating and affecting my real life, and my real life was now no longer just regular real life. It was regular real life being highly influenced and impacted by social media. So we didn't have smartphones and stuff at the time. I guess it was easier to get off, but I would suggest, like, I still have social media. I just haven't logged in probably in like 6 years. Occasionally someone will send me something. I'll go log in a desktop app and I'll get their message. But at this point, I've been off it so long, like, I don't even understand the platforms. It looks completely foreign to me. The concept of scrolling and giving, a shit about somebody else's who I don't really know's life. Not that I don't care about them. Like, I want them to do as well as possible. But like, dude, I don't care what you had for lunch. I don't care where you went to vacation. If you're one of my good friends, you'll tell me in a conversation, and that's how I'll get that information into my brain. Otherwise, I really don't need the information. It's just, it's overconsumption, and it's so hard to know if what you're getting is even real information because everything is so staged online. So I guess that would be my final message in terms of what to do to kind of start to right size the ship if you're heading down this path of negativity. So I don't think that, like, I think it's a pretty pragmatic approach. It works for me, and like, I wake up, I feel pretty level headed every day. Not to say there's not chaos that happens from time to time. There absolutely is. But my message to you all would be, you don't have to pretend that things are perfect because they're absolutely not. But you also don't have to believe that nothing can get better because so much more is within our control than I think we even realize. You can, even in today's life, even in today's economy, even in today's whatever it is that you're saying it can't be done, you can build a life that's meaningful, you can build a life that's stable, and you can build a life that's fulfilling. But it starts by getting clear on what you want, and then it starts by feeding your mind the correct inputs, and it starts by taking small, consistent action in the right direction. Damn it, like and subscribe. Start saying that at the top of the video, dude. No, anyway, if you are still listening, I gotta thank you so much. I really hope you got something out of this. Let me know if any of this resonates with you, or if there's anything you think I missed in the comments, or if there's future videos like this you want me to do. And yeah, it's pretty much it, guys. Take it easy. Peace.